right, thank you so much. Welcome to our portion of the concert. Sitting in front of you, this is the high school jazz band who has some amazing music to play for you tonight. A little bit about the jazz band. We do not have a jazz band class, and so all these students you see in front of you, they come up during their bulldog period and everything else, and prepare all this music for you. So I'm super excited to play some really, really cool stuff. So without further ado, I present to you the Jazz Dogs. is our high school jazz band. Come on, have another round of applause. Yeah, great job, guys. If we give us just another second, we have our high school ensemble is going to play one piece for you, and then we'll transition over into the concert band. So give us just one more second. All right, so the group that you see in front of you, this is a group that went to, Ms. Decker was talking about earlier about some of the students going kind of above and beyond, and so we have this thing at the end of the year, it's called Solo and Ensemble. And so the students get to choose whether they would like to go and perform a solo or if they'd like to get together a group and do an ensemble performance. And it is quite nerve-wracking because they'll go into a room, sit in front of this one judge that's sitting there staring at you the entire time and play this one piece, and then that's it. That's the only chance you get, just one piece. And so this ensemble has went 2 years in a row, and both years they have gotten perfect scores to receive a superior rating. And so just wanted to, it was so good because what they did was they took like an actual full band arrangement and they made it into an ensemble, which is quite amazing. You know, you're talking about, it's supposed to be a full concert band, and yet we just decided that they created it to where 6 people can play it. And so without further ado, here's our high school ensemble. I'm gonna give us just one more set change, and then we'll be done with set changes. I think, yeah, we'll be done with set changes for the night. We have some special music to perform for you by the concert band. How about another hand for our ensemble? And just to say, this is not the only group this year. Solo ensemble has kind of it's become more popular with our band, and I'm very excited. This year we had 23 groups that went to solo ensemble, and every one of them got ones. So that's superior ratings across the board. Again, thank you. Be patient. We'll have one more setup and we'll get started. All right. Thank you for your patience. On the stage now is our high school concert band. High school concert band is made up of 8th grade through 12th grade. We have the ability to have the 8th grade come up to the high school at the end of the day so we can prepare all of this wonderful music for you. We're going to open our concert, and I promised parents and kids and my wife that I wouldn't talk as much this year. I try. I really do. It doesn't happen all the time. But I hope you enjoy. The concert this year started out with a theme, but then it kept growing and adding and adding. We have some special guests today, some special conductors here for you tonight, and so really, really excited. So we're going to open with Psalm 42. So we do something a little different. I don't know many schools that do this, but throughout the spring semester, we have such a long time from January to the end of the year to play music. And I've started doing something over the past, I don't know, it's been like 4 or 5 years or so. And I allow the students to pick out any pieces they want to, and they have to work the piece up. They're doing score study, everything that goes along with creating the music, and they have to conduct it, and they have to do all these things. So they have to be really knowledgeable with all the tempo markings, the dynamics, everything else that goes along with a piece of music. And so we've got 3 features for you, and they're all seniors. And so I would like to welcome to the stage J.R. Edwards, who will be conducting our first piece, Among the Clouds. JR, like I said, JR is one of our seniors, and he's actually attending Huntington next year to be a music education major. So, I'd like to welcome another one of our seniors to the podium. Conducting Forged in Fire, this is Michelle Burleson, who is also our drum major this past year. Michelle Burleson. Michelle will be attending Sanford with a degree in music next year as well. So our last senior coming up, conducting Fantasy on an Irish Air, is Sydney Burleson. Another hand for the singers. It is nerve-wracking. It is nerve-wracking to put a horn in your hand and sit here and play. But to have to get up and lead the band and teach all the stuff, it puts it on another level. So you've done such a great job. Thank y'all so much for all that you've done with this concert. So we have a special guest that's coming up as a guest conductor today. And so when approached to do this, there was no let me think about it. It was like, I'm on it. And so we've worked with him several times, and I'm super excited to welcome to the podium Mr. Kruger. He will be conducting only march tonight. This is the Trombone King. The Trombone King. I was so excited when he agreed to do that. He did a great job. He actually came in and rehearsed the band a couple of times throughout his busy schedule, and it was really hard to for him to get to us. But thank you so much for doing that. I know the kids love it whenever we have guest conductors like that. We're going to continue our concert. I guess I'll conduct now. I know, right? We'll continue our concert with the piece called Me. Turned it off. Sorry. That was a beautiful piece. We're about to jump into a different portion. So the initial idea for the concert this spring was inspired by Wicked, because I love musicals, and they come out and we watched it like 18 million times. I was like, oh, what a great idea for a concert. We've done it before. And so these last three pieces are musicals. And so I hope you enjoy. Our next piece is Les Mis. Our next piece was on the fence, whether we were going to be able to play it or not, but we did work it out in the end. And this is one of my favorite kind of, I guess, newer musicals in a sense, but I hope you enjoy The Greatest Showman. How about another hand for them? Give me a chance to breathe. I have a tendency, like I said, to keep adding songs and songs and songs as we prep these. And I mean, I just love to play, and there's nothing more exciting than just being able to listen to these young men and women and produce this music. Like this is a lot. Most concerts have 3 or 4 pieces. I think we're at 8 or 9. The jazz band played 3, so you know we played about 12, 13 pieces tonight. So again, thank y'all so much for working so hard. I do want to take a second to thank a couple of people. First off, our Board of Education, Mr. Dennis, for coming tonight. Thank you so much for being here. I know it means a lot to the students up here. To our administration, Mr. Kruger, Ms. Moore, thank y'all so much. Thank you for coming up here and showing us your talent of conducting. Appreciate that. Our teachers, we have several teachers here tonight. Thank you so much. I promise you it does not go unnoticed. The students love to see you here at their concerts. Our seniors, thank you so much for an incredible season. It's going to, you know, we're going to miss all of you. It's going to be, it's always hard. Somebody set an alarm for me to stop. I mean, I guess that's my cue. Oh man, that's the first time this happened. Stop talking now. Seniors, thank you so much for all that you've done this year. I know you're going to leave a legacy behind, and I hope that we do a great job and living up to that for you when you come back to see the band next year. Also, our band boosters, parents, thank you so much. I cannot do any of this without you and your students. Thank you so much. They work so hard, and it's really reassuring for the future, because I promise you, all these kids sitting up here will be leaders in some form or fashion, CEOs, doctorates, you know, doctors, whatever. But again, yeah, give them a hand, because they are amazing, and it takes a lot to do this. And last but not least, I want to thank Shoal Creek for allowing us to use this venue. It's been so amazing to be able to have this here over the past, I think it's like this is the 2nd or 3rd year that we've done this here. And you know, if you attended concerts in the gym, it was a little different, really loud, but the acoustics and everything here just makes it all worth it. So thank y'all so much for allowing us. We're going to close the concert tonight with the inspiration of what I had. And so I hope you enjoy Wicked. Again, thank you so much for coming. That concludes our concert. Everybody has a safe trip. I know we have school tomorrow, but thank you again so much for being here.
Good one, man. Yes, all done. Get your cup. You want to turn this off yet? It's so fast.